Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to join you here virtually, of course. My name is Susie Vance. I'm here with Steve Harvey. We are both assistant chiefs for the Division of Parks and Watercraft with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And we wanted to share a little bit about kind of parks in a pandemic. We had a lot, like all of you, like everybody, like the world. COVID-19 had an effect. A lot of things were not great, but we try to see the silver lining. And actually, there were some things that came out of the pandemic that were good. And they were good for the outdoor community. They were good for bringing awareness to nature. They were just great. There were some great opportunities, and we want to talk about kind of how we as state parks were affected by COVID-19 and some of the results that we saw, and then some of the direction that we're headed. So with that, I'm going to talk to you in a minute. I'll turn things over to Steve.
All right. Thank you, Susie. So in 2019, we had one of our top 5 years in Ohio State Parks and Watercraft. Our reservations were in the top. I think it was in the top 3 of all time. We had more overnight. We had almost more overnight stays. We had our boats. Our boating was popular, increasing in our boating, increasing in our watercraft registrations, increasing in our use of our trails and our beaches. And so we were, 2019, we were coming off a great year, and we were really looking forward to 2020. And so, in March of 2020, it was about the middle of March, and we had, we have about 4 all managers meetings a year. And when we all come together in central office, all the park managers and supervisors across the state come together. And we had, it was a Monday, I'll never forget, it was a Monday, and we had one of the best all managers meetings we ever had. We had lots, everybody was excited. We had a lot, we had a lot of good presentations, but we also had some fun stuff intermixed there, and people were just excited for the year to start. And it was right about when the COVID-19 pandemic really started to kind of gain some traction. But we were still excited for our year, what our year was going to bring. And so we left that Monday, everybody feeling really, really good. And by Friday of that week was when we got the word that we were going to be shutting down a lot of our facilities and our offices, and that the majority of us were going to be working from home. And so we made this quick transition. We closed down our campgrounds. We started calling people to cancel their reservations. We even closed down our restrooms and all of our outbuildings at the parks. And so I know we've got a lot of our fellow park, city parks, county park districts out there. So I know you really went through a lot of the same stuff that we did, and so you know where we're coming from. But we shut that down, and the governor did say, Governor DeWine said, parks will remain open because people need something to do in this pandemic when everything's shut down. They need to get away, and the best place, the safest place for them to go is to be outdoors. So we quickly found that that we couldn't close all our facilities. So people were, even though the idea was to travel to a local park, many people still traveled farther distances and still had to use use restrooms and things like that. So we were able to, we had to bring some staff back and keep some of our restroom facilities open for people that were there and needed to use it. But for the vast majority of us did stay home. And so, it became this kind of ebb and flow of, what's the next protocol in place? What are we going to have to do? Are we going to be open our campgrounds? And, we were only canceling out about every 3 to 4 weeks out. And so, we were continually having to increase that length and cancel people out farther. There was some budget restrictions that were put in place. There were hiring freezes that were put in place. And so, a lot of our people that were coming in were having to clean the restrooms, and but we couldn't hire our normal seasonal staff to do that. So a lot of our full-time people were doing that, and we weren't addressing some other things. And so it was a very nervous time for a lot of people. But we were able to put some protocols into place, and we were able to reopen our campgrounds and our cabins and our lodges to our overnight guests for the Memorial Day weekend in 2020. But we still had a lot of protocols in place. We had We had to clean restrooms and shower houses 3 times a day. We were able to hire some people, but we weren't able to hire our normal seasonal crews. But people came out in droves, and really what we saw was, a lot of first-time people going out buying campers because they couldn't travel. So all they could do was really go out and they could camp. And so, we saw people, and we were talking to some of our the outdoor dealers, and they weren't even measuring their campers. Their camper inventory was not being calculated in days or weeks. It was being calculated in hours. Like it didn't take, nothing sat on their floor for more than a day, and it was already purchased. Same thing with canoes and kayaks and vessels. So people were buying those things off the shelf because we were really the only game in town. Your local park, your local city park, county park, or state park was really where everybody was going to get away. So when we did reopen for Memorial Day weekend, we still did have Hocking Hills closed. Hocking Hills was just so popular. We had so many people going there that we couldn't observe the protocol. So Hocking Hills remained closed, even though we opened up all the other parks for Memorial Day. Not surprising, we had record visitations, record overnights. So in the first 12 months after opening, we saw over 120,000 more nights stayed than we did the previous year, which is just incredible. So, you think about that, that's 120,000 nights. Let's say you average 3 people per site. You're talking over 360,000 people more than the previous year before COVID started. So people just flocked to the parks. They flocked to us, and they really kind of rekindled this renewed relationship with the outdoors. So, and even though a lot of our protocol was starting to get lifted, and all of our facilities are now open, our special events are going back on, but people, even in the private sector, all these businesses are back open again, and all these other opportunities are still there. However, even June of 21 this year, so last month, we had over 26,000 more nights stayed than we did in the June of 2019 before the pandemic. So even though the kind of I don't want to say the pandemic's over, but a lot of the restrictions are over, people are still flocking to us like they never have before. And so not only on the park side, on our Watercraft side, in just 1 year, we've increased our registrations of Watercraft over 43,000, which is just incredible. So what's really interesting is when you look at our registrations, a lot of people like to go out to our off-field offices or our central office in Columbus, but the majority of those were closed or had very limited hours with the height of the pandemic. And so a lot of people had started to switch over to mail-in registrations or web renewals or finding agents that would be open out there in the field. And even though our offices are now open, people are still using those other alternate options for renewing their registration. So, just one of the things that we've seen already is that the kind of the change in people's attitudes towards using our offices and our facilities because of what they've experienced through the pandemic. So, what also is of interest is our Watercraft registration numbers when it comes to the types of vessels. So when you register, we kind of have some categories of the different types of vessels. Personal watercraft is 36,000. That number stayed about the same for about the last 15, 20 years. It's might have fluctuated a few, but it's really about the same number. But really, what's gotten power boats for the longest time was number one. But what we've seen is canoes and kayaks, before the pandemic, around 2017, 18, even in 19, canoes and kayaks were right there with power boats and numbers registered, or even kind of surpassed it at one point, I believe, in 2019. But come the pandemic and people wanting to get outdoors and get exercise and things like that, first-time vessel owners really became the canoe and kayak people, and they were buying kayaks off the shelf. Talking to sporting goods stores, they couldn't keep a kayak on the shelf in 2020. So now you've seen canoes and kayaks really kind of jump ahead of power boats. And what's interesting when you think about the number of new customers buying canoes, buying kayaks, or buying campers, these aren't things that people just, they buy it for 1 year and they get rid of it. These are long-term investments. So we continue to expect that we're going to see these new customers at our facilities for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So we want to do our best to make sure that they keep coming out and having good experiences. So really some lessons learned from our experience of the last year of the pandemic, and things we want to do to kind of move forward and keep this going. Some of what was a COVID protocol is now become an expectation. So the people coming out and seeing that we are cleaning restrooms 3 times a day, that's become the expectation now. So even though there is a protocol in place that requires us to touch them 3 times a day, the customer expects us to do that, and we're relaying that to our staff that we need to keep this beefed up and this higher capacity of cleaning people, and we need to keep them and keep that level of service up. Another thing that we found is, when the pandemic hit, we really had limited camp store staff hours, if we had any at all. And so we really pushed everybody to be 100% reservable. So we wanted you to have your reservation site before you showed up to the park. When you came to the campground, you just went right to your site. You didn't have to stop in the store. We didn't want that to set up that opportunity where you might have, social gatherings or things like that. So we try to keep people as spread out as possible. And in that 100% reservable, what we really found is people really liked the fact that they had the opportunity to reserve sites, and they knew if they had a site or not. We've always had a reservation system, but there's people that would try to find a walk-in or just show up the day of. But with the popularity and with how much our sites are being used right now, people really appreciate that 100% reservable, because they know they got a site, and they know that if there's not, either you have an opportunity to get in or you don't. So, but with that, people have realized that, with all these new customers out there, the competition for these sites has gotten greater, and we allow people to make reservations on a campsite 6 months in advance. And some of our more popular weekends, our holiday weekends, or our more popular campgrounds, we're seeing almost 100% reservation that 6 months out from those check-in dates. And it's incredible. Sometimes we got people calling and saying, hey, your reservation system's broke because everything's showing reserved, and it's 6 months out, and we're saying, yeah, it's not broke, it is, it's 100, we are reserved. We ran some metrics on some of our sites, and you could have individual campsites from Memorial Day to the 1st of October that are 99.99% booked, where they'll have, in those 4 months, they have 1 day that there's not somebody on that campsite. And so, that's great, because people are getting out and enjoying us. But it really kind of rolls into some of our concerns of, how much can we handle? How much of this crowding can we handle? We've got beaches which have 100 cars over capacity showing up for weekends now. We have almost 100% reservation on campsites. We have our popular places like Hocking Hills. We had to put a one-way trail system in there to try to keep it open during the pandemic. Well, that's now become the expectation, the norm of trying to handle the capacity of the number of people that are showing up at these places. So, our boat ramps are overflowing, our beaches are overflowing, our trails are overflowing. So, we want people to come out and enjoy the outdoors, and we're still trying to balance that. Keep that good number of people so they keep having good experiences. And we want to make sure that the resource can handle this amount of traffic. But moving forward, these open spaces and these outdoor experiences that people are having now it's really become their getaway, and their of all the stresses of life within the pandemic and the time to get away. They've really depended on our local parks and our state parks to have some relaxation, to have some downtime, to get out and enjoy. And people have really flocked to them and kind of rediscovered what is out there for them. So we look, as we move forward, we look to keep some of these things in place, keep pushing forward, trying to be have the best customer service we can, and try to keep having people have these wonderful experiences that come out to us. So knowing that, I would like to, at this point, kick it over to Assistant Chief Vance to talk about another initiative within our state parks. So.
Thanks, Dave. So I'm excited to talk to you about a campaign that we launched. We had this new and renewed, or this group of people with this new or renewed relationship with the outdoors. And actually this whole campaign is kind of a perfect storm of things that were happening across the state. And it all started with a few conversations. So we had a campaign this spring and early summer called Thrive Outside. And that was our tagline, was kind of, hey, this is a natural path to good mental health. So the story starts several years ago, a couple of years ago, but before I tell it, I want to go through, I'll talk today a little bit about the background and story. We've got some great partners that made this happen. I want to share with you the products that came from this project, and then some of our next steps of where we're going. So, okay, back to our story. So a couple of years ago, we started looking at a nationwide program called Parks RX, or Park RX, Park Prescription. And basically the idea behind Park RX is to have doctors or hospitals kind of write a literal prescription for take a walk, go outside, be outdoors as part of a known, and we know that there are benefits, real health benefits of being outdoors. So we had started to, and this is kind of pre-COVID, it all ties in. Pre-COVID, we had started looking at, okay, how do we join this national movement, and how do we make Ohio a part of this effort? And we had started a conversation with Mental Health and Addiction Services and Recovery Ohio, and several hospitals, and we pressed pause during COVID. The pandemic kind of shook up everyone's lives enough to say, hey, can we just wait? But this past year, 2021, began, and we were ready. We felt like we didn't need to wait anymore. So we reached back out to Mental Health and Addiction Services and Recovery Ohio, Recovery Ohio is like a clearinghouse of health and recovery services across the state. So they're a really important partner for mental health and addiction services as well. So we started a conversation about, hey, what can we do? How can we partner? How is this effective? And through some really grassroots conversations, it came about that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. At the same time, May was going to be the time that we were planning on launching our May, launching our brand new app with ODNR called Detour Ohio. And that was an app where all of our trails were entered. So if you download this app, you would be able to enter your location and see not only ODNR trails, but trails that had been entered from any of our land holding partners in the state. So a really cool app that we were excited about. Mental Health and Addiction Services was excited about Mental Health Awareness Month in May. At the same time, part of a larger conversation, Director Chris, who is the director of mental health and addiction, had secured some funding to promote kind of an anti-stigma campaign against mental health issues. So we put all those pieces together. Here's my shameless plug for, if you don't have the Detour Ohio app, please download it, check it out. It's such a good app. We took some of that funding from mental health that they had, and we partnered to do a few things. One of the things that we did was we started a social media campaign, and we are so fortunate at Ohio State Parks. We have a strong following, and we none of us take that for granted. If you follow or don't, if you follow us, we thank you. If you don't, again, another shameless plug. So we used our social media presence both at a statewide level and at local levels. So some of our individual parks have social media pages. And we started doing these posts. Some of them were promoted, some of them were more organic, but we did like Wellness Wednesdays and Motivational Mondays, and just hashtagged a lot of these as Thrive Outside, take your detour, get outdoors. And we were able to share and promote and post a lot of great information, and reach a pretty broad audience on social media. So our Facebook pages, and again, this is our statewide page and some of our local pages, we did 19 posts related to Thrive Outside in the months of May and June. A lot of you are outdoorsy, and you know that May and June are really busy with other activities, like the Biggest Week in Birding and Memorial Day, and all of these great things are happening in the months of May and June anyway. So we kind of peppered Thrive Outside throughout. We did 19 posts. Throughout those 2 months, 60 days, we reached 1 million people, and I'm pretty proud of that effort and that reach. If there was a benefit to just one of those million, we feel like we achieved quite a bit. So our daily reach was 48,000, nearly 50,000 people every day saw. Every day that we posted saw a effect of the Thrive Outside campaign. We had over 7,500 people react to those posts, and more than 5,000 people share those posts. And that's just Facebook. We had some Instagram numbers that you can read through as well. 8 posts on Instagram, and then we tweeted 11 times on Twitter. So some pretty good stats. We're really happy. I'm really happy with that effort and that outreach and reach. We also had several billboards across the state, and we actually have plans for several others. So we have the Thrive Outside campaign, just get outdoors, be happy, be outside, take 15 minutes to adjust your mental health. So we have these billboards across the state. And then we also, I wanted you to see this all again. We also have posters, and these posters are actually available for download on Mental Health and Addiction Services website. So these posters were placed in several locations at our parks and facilities, just promoting not only the Thrive Outside campaign, but what to do if you need help. So we wanted to also promote the Ohio Care Line, the 800 number for emotional support or help with mental health issues, or if family or friends needing assistance as well. So these posters were placed. And then one of the last pieces of our effort and our campaign was we contracted with Ohio Broadcasting Association to get commercials on television stations and then radio spots as well. So we had these radio spots and TV spots, and we don't have the analytics back from that yet. But hopefully we will soon. And I just wanted to play one of our quick commercials. We had 30-second and 15-second spots. And let's see how this goes.
It's time to thrive outside. Spending time outside, like at an Ohio State park, is a natural way to boost your mental health. Just 15 minutes in nature can restore you, leaving you feeling refreshed. The parks are for everyone to enjoy. Visit detourtrails.ohiodnr.gov to connect to a trail near you. Need more help? Call the Ohio Care Line at 1-800-720-9616 for free emotional support.
So again, we had that video that we played.
It's time to thrive out.
I want to play. I mean, it's very good. I'll play it again if you. So we can send you to the YouTube channel. Actually, that it is on the YouTube channel at Mental Health and Addiction Services. So forgot, I'll get that plug in there too. So we really hope to continue. We want to put more billboards out. We would love to continue a message on the Ohio Broadcasting Association with that partnership. And then we hope to add to our efforts for Mental Health Awareness Month in May of 2022. So I appreciate the opportunity to share that effort with you. And if you have the chance, again, the plugs are to download the Detour app, to participate and share any of our Thrive Ohio hashtagged messages. So I think with that, we are happy to, Steve and I both thank you very much for the chance to share with you and talk with you, and we can take questions.